don't freak out, okay? This is Casper. He is my Halloween moon crab. He's a very polite, handsome gentleman.
Oh man, this is so difficult. This is way more difficult than I thought. If I could skip over this one and just not, then I would. It's so tricky. It's so tricky. I know that Cancer people are not going to even watch this because I'm going to be pretty critical and they can't handle criticism. Like, they're going to literally skip away at the moment. And if they do watch it, they're going to be so petty about it and hold a grudge forever. So it's like, my incentive to make this is so diminished, but I know how overrepresented they are on the dissident right. Like, I know how many people either have their sun in the 4th house or, have their sun in Cancer. I've even seen an overwhelming preponderance of people who have both, who have a 4th house Cancer sun and who are on the dissident right. It's a deeply racist, sensitive, and petty sign. You know that meme of like this, the sensitive young man? The sensitive young man? Cancer. But hey, don't believe me. Let's start with the glyph. Let's actually just start with the crab claws, with the pincers, with the 6-9 wheel, the cyclical wheel. And it is something to understand about the sign sandwiched between Gemini and Leo, is that it's not quite being either of them, is that it is always in motion. Like the moon, which rules it, it is perpetually a little wheel, crab claws, pincers, making a wheel of motion. That is a little wheel of trauma. A little wheel of trauma in which they're always the victim. Like all water signs, these people are perpetual victims. If you think of a crab, of its armored body, it's a crustacean with an armored body, there is a clear delineation between the outside and the inside, between the squishy, soft innards of the crab and the tough, armored exterior of the crab. This is kind of how you have to think of Cancer people. Crabs do not walk forwards. They can only go backwards or sideways. Cancer people, likewise, are perpetually stuck in nostalgia and dreams and memories and feelings from the past. It's extremely common for a Cancer person, for example, to have a bunch of songs or a bunch of TV shows or a bunch of movies that they watch on repeat that they say, these are my movies. That they will literally refer to them in a possessive, emotional sense of like, my movies. Cancer is the moon. Cancer is the mother. If you think about where crabs live, if you think about the shallow tide pools that rise and fall, like just like with the moon, just like the moods of the temperamental, sensitive Cancer person, I feel. And trust me, they be feeling before they think. They be feeling first and then trying to work out why, and then post-rationalizing and coping and bullshitting themselves afterwards with post-hoc justifications about why they felt what they felt. But ultimately, it's just that they felt. It's never what you said. It's not even how you said it. It's how they felt about it when you said it that matters with these people. If you think of the zodiacal man, we're talking about the stomach. We're talking about the breasts. We're talking about the part of the body that nurturing love and light and warmth is given from. It's actually the peak of summer, the summer solstice, that Cancer season starts. And seasonally speaking, it's a really interesting time of year because it should be a party. And often it is. But there's also a heavy sense of melancholy attached to the height of summer and the height of the year because the year is dying. And it's all downhill from here. And if that's how I had to describe, just in a short sentence, the Cancerian personality, it's so over. It's so over. And it's going to be another year before it can even be back again. And to be honest, next year won't be as good as this year. And this year won't be as good as last year. And things are only going, feels like we only go backwards, baby. You have to think about what it means to be lunar. You have to think about the moon. You have to think about how much the moon changes and how many phases that there are to the moon. You have to think about the common astrological correlation between emotions and the moon. between motherhood and the moon, between the moon and the womb, between the moon and the feminine, between the moon and menstrual cycles, which is basically what a Cancer is. They're someone who is perpetually on their menstrual cycle, which is why I have to say, as a feminine yin energy kind of sign, it's better to be a Cancerian female than to be a Cancerian male. It's a great sign for motherhood. It's a great sign for being a matriarch. It's a great sign for being a mum, for running a family. It's a great sign for being a loyal, devoted, and loving wife. Fellas, if you're looking for a loyal woman, Cancer, for exactly the same reasons that they are racist, that there is a homeland, ancestry, heritage, and history connotation to Cancer and to the fourth house, subsequently to the fourth house. It's very much centered around family and belonging and home. Taurus is the house and the possessions, but Cancer is the home and the hearth and the family. It's very much an emotional fortress, and it's very much a protective and loving sign, even when they bite at you, and even when they snip at you, and even when they snipe at you. And by God do they snipe at you. By God are they one of the most passive aggressive signs in the zodiac. They're doing it out of a place of care and compassion. They're doing it because ultimately they're trying to be your mum. This is why you find even a lot of Cancer men who are in business, work in HR, or run their businesses like, families. They see themselves very much as nurturing and growing and caring for this thing, even if it isn't necessarily a person. It's the house or the sign in the fourth one in Cancer of the mother, of the protector, of the warden, of the home, and of the home keeper. There is a massive buff that these people get to intuition and to psychic ability, in the same way that Scorpios do and in the same way that Pisces do, but Cancer has the ability, unlike those signs, to actually communicate some of the extrasensory shit that's going on, which is why you get a lot of witches and people who are a little bit tapped in with either Cancer suns or, Cancer moons particularly, and heavy Cancer placements. Jupiter in Cancer, where it's exalted, is a really great one for like psychic intuition or for being a little bit tapped in. Cardinal water sign ruled by the moon. Emotion in motion, waves, tidal pools. Cancer people are leaders because they are a cardinal sign and it is the first water sign, but these are leaders in an emotional capacity far more than in an active fire capacity or in a practical material capacity. It's a very fertile time of year, the summer solstice. It's a very fecund time of year, the summer solstice. There's a vulnerability to this time of year. The crops are vulnerable. People are vulnerable. And the year is, in essence, kind of starting to die. I like to compare Cancer to Capricorn because they're so opposite and there's no better polarity across the whole wheel than the Cancer-Capricorn dichotomy. Cancer being so sensitive and so emotional and so nurturing and so caring, and Capricorn being so stoic and so severe and so practical and utilitarian. Capricorn, the father, the patriarch, the authority. Cancer, the mother, the nurturing, the feminine. Two sides of the same energy, in a sense. If I had to say some good shit about Cancer people, then I guess I'd say, yeah, they're very nurturing, they're very sensitive, they're very protective, they're great at understanding your feelings, they're great at asking if you've eaten today, they're great at concern trolling. In fact, they're the best at trolling in general, okay? If you want to give them something, you can say that the best internet trolls are Cancers, hands down. Something about having a chip on their shoulder, I guess, from not being a Gemini or a Leo, means that the Cancer, Elon Musk is a Cancer, not just a Cancer with the Cancer Sun and Cancer Mercury. So someone who thinks and talks and communicates like a Cancer. Extremely petty, extremely passive aggressive. Who is Adrian Dittman? That Elon Musk, creating an alt account to troll the people that you disagree with politically on the social media network that you own, and then boosting that account, and then creating a bunch of rumors about who that account is or isn't in order to create hype around that account. Extremely Cancerian behavior. But these are some of the most petty, malevolent, grudge-holding people of all time. And yeah, great witches and wizards, because it is, very, very much, you've got that peak time of year energy like you do in Gemini, but you have water, right? And you have intuition and you have imagination. Very, very traditional people, great understanding of heritage and culture. You have to give that to them. And like I say, very, very likely to be overrepresented in terms of the dissident right, because they make a very strong delineation between in-group and out-group, and because they're concerned very much with ancestry and heritage and home and family and protecting and nurturing. Very resilient people, okay? They can go through a lot of shit. They can really take a fucking joke. Like I said, they'll never forget it and they'll never forgive it, but they can, on the surface of it, take a joke and crack a joke with you and have a banter with you. They can be very outgoing when they want to be. But then they'll change like the moon and they'll go inside their shell. Interestingly enough, back in the day, other common themes and animal totems, archetypes that were associated with Cancer, the lobster, the turtle, at various points in history, all animals that have hard shells, soft insides, and that live in this kind of shallow, temperamental, tidal water. If water is our emotions, if the moon is our emotions, then the changeable lunar water is where Cancer resides. It's not the depths of Pisces or the intense waves of Scorpio. It's very much the shallow, fickle, changeable emotions. It's not what you said. It's not even really how you said it. They're very strategic. They're very smart. I mean, they're not actually. They're kind of mid in terms of intelligence overall. But you do get a lot of smart Cancers, I guess, due to other placements, hit and miss. They can often be smarter than they let on, I suppose. I imagine playing dumb is a very Cancerian trait. Secretive people, lunar people, they hide resources. Hoarding is an extremely Cancerian trait, but it's not hoarding in the Taurian possessive sense. It's hoarding in the emotional, sentimental sense, collecting things because they have weird emotional attachments to them. Ugh. You see, I just have an innate Gemini aversion and repulsion to this sign. Very psychically tuned in, very creative, potent, actually, when it comes to storytelling or art or food. Less so with the music, I've noticed. Not a particularly musical sign in the way that, like, Taurus is or even Pisces can be. But yeah, I mean, really, I just want to focus on the dark side. Really, I just want to focus on how they're so fucking clingy. Like a crab, like crab claws. They just like grab, once they grab on, they just don't let go. Which I guess you could say is loyal. I mean, they're loyal to a fault. They're loyal to a fault where they'll get cheated on and then be like still loyal to the person who cheated because they like enjoy being a victim, because they like the emotional nostalgia of remembering when the relationship was good before their boyfriend used to hit them or whatever. It's such a fucking cursed sign. Holy shit. The Greeks used to say that the sun was exalted in both, the sun and the moon were exalted in both Cancer and Leo. Over time, we've lost that, and I think for good reason, okay? But the moon still is exalted in Cancer. The sun is not exalted in Cancer. Very, very manipulative, very, very passive-aggressive sign. They weaponize guilt, they weaponize loyalty. They're not as bad as, say, the Scorpios for feeling like everybody has betrayed them all the time and feeling like they've been wronged in every situation, but there's a little bit of that. All the water signs carry that kind of like, I'm a victim mentality with them. They're moody as hell, extremely changeable, extremely fickle, very, very cutting. Now, there's weirdly a lot of MMA fighters who have their Mars in Cancer, and even though Mars is in detriment in Cancer, he's fallen there, he doesn't like to be there. I imagine that if you can get over it or get around it and learn to use it, they're the kind of fighters that would be very defensive and take a lot of little pot shots at the target until they've worn them down. Death by 1,000 paper cuts. War of attrition would be Mars in Cancer. So Cancer in general is an extremely petty and passive-aggressive sign that is looking to cut you and nip you and hurt you. Very, very moody, very, very paranoid. Like the moon, very much like the moon, changes every couple of hours in terms of how they're feeling, but it's always based around how they're feeling. I feel. Emotionally incestuous people, to be honest, deeply codependent, and with a real martyr syndrome. Like a real, like, oh, I'm suffering, look at me. Brutal. Allegedly, Julius Caesar had a Cancer sun, alright, allegedly, although other people say he was a Leo. It's confusing based on the timing. But there are some fascinating characters from history. Just all of them are deeply petty and Machiavellian in this way. In the Thema Mundi, in the Greek natal chart of the cosmos, with, the sun in Leo and the moon in Cancer, the rising sign of the world is also Cancer, which I think is something to consider. I think the world does look its best and is at its best in that kind of peak summer. And there is something really beautiful and emotional about that time of year, which definitely carries over to the people who are born in that time of year. But if you want to understand it, you got to understand the moon. If you want to understand it, you got to understand crabs, why you would want to understand it, and the weird obsession with like emotionally owning things and with bloodlines and with heritage. It's weird, it's obsessive, it's annoying, quite frankly, especially to someone who's air or someone who's fire. But they can be very soft, and they can be very understanding, and they can be great people to talk to about your problems, and to offload your bullshit on. And actually, it's kind of the ultimate sign for like a wife or a mum. Or maybe a dad with other placements to balance it out. Jupiter, after all, is exalted in Cancer. There's got to be a reason why the father wants to be in the house of the mother. But yes, to summarize it, extremely, extremely annoying, sentimental, overly attached, nostalgic, lunar people, and you really got to watch. Because they'll decide that you've wronged them, and then they'll have to get revenge. If you do a Shaniqua horoscope video about Cancer and watch how different it is, you'll hear about how lovely they are.
If you can see on the back of him, it kind of looks like a jack-o'-lantern. You see the 2 dots in the face? Yeah, anyways, he's very festive, and he's my little pal. I honestly don't really know how to describe a relationship because, I'm terrified of him, but I love him. I don't really know how to put it.